Hello and welcome to Strategic Gaming. My name is Mac Taylor. With me today, I have a person who, well, we were going to do this podcast earlier, but this person fell asleep and therefore doesn't get his perfect attendance record anymore. It's Chris Wilkerson. How's it going, Chris?
Oh, sad day. Lost my perfect attendance. This new job's kind of wearing me out. I'm sorry, guys, but I'm here now.
And we got the person who's trying not to die laughing in the corner. She was like trying to finish her crackers before we got on air. It's Jada Lewis. How's it going, Jada?
Hey guys, pretty good. I did not die laughing, so
Nice low angle with your camera, Jada.
I know I need to fix it, but I was pretty focused on the crackers.
Oh, yep, there they are. There's that noise. I feel like we're getting like a Blair Witch style shot there for a second, where she was like just shooting low. There we go. That's a normal casting angle.
So I have to like sit the laptop on my couch cushion for this angle. So
gotcha. Hey, whatever you gotta do. I got weird rigs over here right now because I'm using the better computer. So we're gonna be talking about 2 episodes of Survivor Australia. If you couldn't tell by what we were just talking about, they had nothing to do with that. We're gonna talk about episode 6 and 7. Episode 6, just forewarning the viewers, a bit of a downer. So we're gonna be going a little bit low. We're gonna be going. The merge happens at episode 7. We'll be talking about that. Two people will be eliminated by the end of this podcast, and the jury starts after episode 7. So we got a lot of pivotal moments in Survivor Australia happening in these 2 episodes. Without any more delay, let's go ahead and jump right in here. Episode 6. Here we go. On the Kucha end of things, Scoopin' is like, I feel like a changed man. I came out here thinking like, oh, outdoor stuff, I do this all the time. It's gonna be easy. That the outdoors part was easy, but the whole tribe thing and working as a team and stuff, it's really like changed my perspective on life. Varner, while most of Kucha is like excited for the merge and like meeting these new people, Varner is just like, yeah, I just really want to upset people. I want to mess with the new tribe, and then I want to pick them off one by one. I cannot wait to personally just mess up everybody's games. Thoughts on these little moments here, Jada?
it was nice to see Michael like realizing things and seeing that like Survivor is more than just surviving by yourself. So that was a nice moment. Of course, followed by Varner, who ruined it by being just kind of a dick like always. But it's okay. It's what I expect from Varner. Can't be mad about it. He's just kind of like the cocky villain.
Chris, thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree with Jada. Just Varner being himself. I mean, he's the evil dick in the show. I mean, he's the guy that says anything you think about saying but don't want to because you have a conscience. He just does not care. He's there to win the game, and he owns it.
Yeah, and there's this thing as we head toward the merge. It's like this this intimidating factor for some of these people. They're like, there's gonna be new people. It's an individual game technically at that point. These tribes are gonna be together. Like the game gets, I think, more serious when the merge happens. Like during the tribes, you try to find an alliance and kind of ride through those first few votes. But when the merge hits, it's like game on. Every person for themselves. Like it's almost like a reset, even in a way. So it's always interesting to see the pre-merge thoughts. On the Oakcore side, Jerry is like obsessed with talking about chocolate, and more so in like a sexual way. She's talking about like licking chocolate off of people, and Colby is super uncomfortable with this. he says this is the most uncomfortable camping trip I've ever been on. So he's trying to like go talk to Keith or like get away from Amber and Jerry, who just cannot stop talking about the sex stuff. And Colby even has a quote in his special saying, "Bring on Kusha, get rid of these nuts."
Mhm.
Thoughts, Jada?
I would also be uncomfortable by that conversation because it was a little naughty. Okay, so I agree with Colby. Let's move on to Kucha and get rid of these nuts.
Okay, Chris?
Yeah, I thought this part of the show was absolutely annoying. And I'm not the cleanest person in the world, don't get me wrong. The dirtiness did not bother me. It was the constant screaming and moaning for no reason that was so very annoying. And I loved Colby's quote at the end, "Bring on Kucha, get rid of these nuts." And absolutely, I'm so annoyed, and right at this point in the show, I hate Jerry and Amber.
Yeah, there's just kind of a time and a place for these things, and Jerry and Amber don't have a handle on that.
And like Jerry's talking about Colby.
And says so.
And he's just like, okay, would rather not be in this conversation. And then on the Kucha tribe, they took their chicken feed and have started eating it, and they're like frying it kind of over their fire, and it turns into like popcorn. Like, oh my god, guys, it's popcorn. Would you guys have thought to have eaten the chicken feed? Like, I thought that was an interesting thing. Like, I would totally do it, but I never would have thought to have eaten the chicken feed. Thoughts on that little thing there, Jada?
I don't know. I mean, if I was the one who knew what the chicken feed looked like, and I could clearly see that in there were like little popcorn kernels, like, yeah, that's edible. If I didn't know what it was, I don't know if I would try to eat it, but it was pretty smart of them, yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. I probably would have ate it no matter if I actually knew or if I did not know what was inside of the chicken feed. But they had their farmer Roger standing right there. He looked at the seed and he's like, "Yeah, we can eat this." It's really great to have that kind of brain on your team who has so much experience in farming and dealing with animals that he can be like, "Hey, we can eat this," and that's sustenance. I mean, you're gonna last longer in the show, and Kucha's kind of living pretty great right now.
Yeah, Kucha, they've ate pig, chicken feed, rice, and all sorts of other things. I mean, Ogakor, they've said they're very hungry. Like, they have not eaten well at all since they've been on the island. Back on the Ogakor tribe, Keith and Jerry are arguing over how to cook fried green tomatoes, and Colby's like, I'm super annoyed that Jerry just won't stop picking at Keith. He's like, Keith kind of argues back now, but like mostly this is just Jerry picking at Keith. And Tina is like, all right, I'm about to send you guys a timeout. Like, you guys need to separate. You're getting on my nerves. And Tina in her confessional says, like, I want Jerry out. She's an instigator. She's like a pot stirrer, and she is just like on my last nerve. Like, I cannot have this woman around me very much longer. Thoughts on that, Jada?
Like, the thing about Jerry is that I don't like her. And she just, like you said, she's an instigator. Like Tina said, she's an instigator. And like, all she does is constantly take every situation and turn it around and to make it like a fight or annoying for everybody else. And I just don't know how she's lasted this long. Because like, I haven't liked her for a long time. And I would have been already trying to like vote her out.
Yeah, thoughts there, Chris?
Yeah, I really agree with Jada, but I probably would have had Jerry voted out even sooner. I feel like I would have been annoyed by Jerry's personality well before the people on this season of Survivor have withstanded it. And just her picking at Keith, especially trying to tell a chef how he can cook, even though everyone knows you can't fry cherry tomatoes. But I'm so ready to see Jerry get kicked off this show.
Well, it's interesting that Jerry, when they took the shot at Mitchell, they could have done that to Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
But Mitchell had to pass votes, but they didn't know that at the time. So, really interesting that they've chosen to not target Jerry at this point. Then for the reward challenge, they know by their tree mail that it's going to be like the tribe blindfolded to one person having to direct them through some sort of obstacle. Kucha takes this time to Nick's like, I got it. I'll do the guiding. And they're like, okay. So they take their buffs and they blindfold themselves, and Nick starts leading them around the forest to practice giving direction, and so they can all get used to like listening to him, and he can get used to guiding them. The Ogre side of this, Amber's like, we could get a picnic, and they proceed to spend the whole time talking about what could be in the picnic and what kind of food they'll eat at the picnic. Thoughts on the different tribe strategies there, Chris?
Yeah, these tribe strategies right here pretty much show their entire game plan this far in the season, down to a T. I mean, there's a reason Kucha is so far ahead right now. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really look like it, but they are. They've won so many comps, and they feel so strong. They're living really well, and you can see it when they game plan for their challenges. I mean, instead of talking about the reward, they're talking about the game. They're strategizing for the challenge, and Kucha or Ogakor is talking about what they get when they win. Well, you have to win first. You can't talk about the prize before you actually win. You have to win first, and you have to come up with a plan to win. You can't just win blindly.
Ironic statement. But Chris, your guy Nick actually going to be doing something.
Oh my God! What?
Jada, thoughts on all of that? The strategy?
Yeah, I agree with Chris, and it's been like this the whole time. Kucha has always been more focused, and that's why Kucha has always been doing better, because Ogakor they're not even working as a unit. And they're not capable of working as a unit because they just don't get along and they don't make that effort. And that's why they're losing, and that's why they're not going to do well in this challenge.
Yeah, and then on the challenge, we have Nick leading for Kucha, Jerry giving out the orders for Ogakor, kind of ironic.
Bad idea.
Yeah, that she ended up in that position. And it's actually pretty close. However, their strategies are very different. Jerry is like yelling the whole time, but like it seems like Keith and Amber don't hear her because they're like, she's always had to be like, no, Keith and Amber, you're way out there. Bring it in, Keith and Amber. Just move forward a little bit. Meanwhile, Nick is pretty easily guiding Kucha. Like they're listening to him very well. But it comes down to, it looks like Ogakor's gonna win, but Amber cannot, like she's like 2 feet away from the table, which they'll win at, and she can't find it. And Jerry is panicking and screaming, and Nick calmly leads Kucha to that victory. So Kucha, again, winning another competition. And kind of as a really good image for how the tribe feels, Colby runs up and throws a bucket of water on a Jerry as a like, this is your fault. Thoughts there, Jada?
Yeah, I'm pretty glad that Colby went ahead and threw the bucket of water on Jerry because she deserved it. If this team had taken this competition more seriously, then they could have won. If Jerry would have taken this competition more seriously, they could have won. But she didn't. They didn't. And so, as always, Kucha had it in the bag. And it sucks because there are some tribe members on Ogakor that I love. I really enjoy Tina and Colby, and I know this bias because they're on my team, but I do enjoy them. They're good people. I also really like Keith. But then you have these other people like Jerry and Amber who they just make me annoyed every time I have to see Ogakor on screen. Because I know it means that I have to watch Jerry, and it sucks because I would love to watch my favorite Texan. But I also know I have to watch my favorite Texan being disgusted by Jerry, who sucks at everything and talks sexually about chocolate in him. So it's like, it's just annoying. But Ogakor and Nick did a really good, Kucha and Nick did a really great job. It was nice to see Nick actually doing something this season.
Chris, thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I loved Colby throwing the water on Jerry because I hate Jerry and I love Colby, and I would have done this if it was me in the game, but I probably would have tossed the bucket too. But I guess Colby's just a little nicer than I am. It's great to finally see Nick do something productive and as calmly and assertively as he could. I mean, he really did kind of lead. Like Max said, Nick led Kucha. Jerry just screamed at Ogakor.
Mm-hmm.
So we had two different types of game. Jerry was frantic and had no plan. She really just had a loud mouth, and I think that's the only reason she got put on the tower. And Nick calmly just thinks about everything and led his tribe as a group through every obstacle, and they looked like they were completely in the lead and going to take it over, and then Ogakor battled back to get in front, and Nick still does not panic and manages to sneak out a victory because Ogakor really did have this challenge in the bag if Jerry would not have been such an idiot.
Yeah, and the thing, and just like you guys pointed out with like Ogakor, like they just are unfocused. They're not a unit. Kucha is like Kucha seems to be like we're Kucha strong to the end, whereas Ogakor is all there's a lot of lines divided in that tribe. Whereas I think Kucha, the only lines that were divided was against Kimmy, and she's gone now. So it's like they're even stronger now that they don't have to worry about him.
Mm-hmm.
So back at the Ogakor camp, it's clear that if they don't win this immunity, they're going to be picked off at the merge. Like they're going to go in 6-4, and that's pretty much game over. So everybody's very down, very quiet at the camp. Colby says, like, no, that's not me. I'm not going to lay down and die. I'm not going to just, give up at 10 or whatever. Like, I'm going to figure out a way to get around this. If we end up going to the merge 6-4, I'm going to find a way to get in that 6. And I came here to win. I didn't come here to, and exert all this energy just to give up and lose. That's not who I am, and that's not what I'm going to do. So Colby ventures off on his own to just contemplate the game, which is kind of funny because Jerry does kind of the same thing, but in a different thought process, where Jerry's like, yeah, we're pretty much fucked here for this last immunity challenge. However, if anybody can work their way in that 6 over there at Kucha, it's me. So I'm going to think of a way that I can find their weakest players and manipulate them and build my army like that I had here on Ogakor over there on Kucha. So she goes off on her own and contemplates that side of the game. So we got Colby and Jerry contemplating two very different game strategies at the same time. Thoughts on that, Jada?
I think it really just shows who they each are as a person, and who they each are as a player. Jerry is thinking about how she can weasel her way around, and Colby is thinking about how they can win. You know what I mean? So it's enlightening. If you didn't already know who they were, this really shows who they are.
Chris, thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree with Jada. It really shows the nature of the person they are by the way they just talk about their game. And Jerry talks about how her tribe is just not working for her, and she thinks it's everyone else's fault and blames nothing on herself, while Colby realizes that, hey, we're just not working out as a tribe, and maybe I just need to relocate and work with some better people. And he talks about how he doesn't want to step on anybody's toes and how he came here to play the game and that's what he's here to do. And he wants to do this as honestly as he can without hurting as many people as other people in this show seem to want to do, like Jerry. She just only thinks about herself, even if she puts on a different face to other people, which Colby does not. And it really shows in their games, and it kind of sums up their characters up until now.
Yeah, Jerry's thinking, which I like Jerry's strategy of no matter where I go, I'll just try to work my way in.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good mindset to have. I think Jerry unnecessarily makes herself the villain sometimes. Like, she doesn't have to be the bad guy in a lot of these situations. She just chooses to be. But, like I said in the Big Brother 2 podcast, I have a problem with people who want to play both sides. It's very clear that Colby is playing the hero and Jerry's playing the villain. It's very, very clear. And so I have to respect her in that sense of, like, she's owning her game 100%. Back on the Kucha side, Skupin is tending to a fire. He inhales too much smoke. He collapses, passing out, falls into the fire, hops back up, sprints over, runs into the water, and skin is just floating off of him like he is burnt very, very badly. The doctors show up. The tribe is shocked. This happened so fast. The doctors are wrapping up his arms and giving him medication, and it's clear that Skupin will be removed from the game due to this accident. So Skupin, who is very drugged up, is being loaded on this helicopter, and all of Kucha stands by him, and he says, one of you has to win this game. Like, we have all played so hard. I'm going to be okay, but one of you guys has to win this thing. And, with tears all around, he is put in the helicopter and taken away. Jeff even saying that they will eat Okafor for Skupin. Varner, someone who's not always a fan of Skupin, has had a fire lit under him by Skupin's sudden withdrawal from the game. Walk me through your thoughts on this whole shocking moment, which is one of the most historic moments in Survivor history. This is the first medical evacuation ever. So walk me through your thoughts on it, Jada.
Yeah, it was scary. I felt really bad for Skupin. It was very stressful. I was hoping that, medical attention could get to him like faster than they did, which, they did great, but, it was like half an hour later or something like that. I'm pretty sure. And then as everybody on his team was being really, really supportive, and it really showed that Kucha is a good tribe and they really care for each other, even though this is a game. And to see even Varner go as far as to be like upset and inspired by all of this with Skupin, and like you said, they haven't always gotten along. And like I've said before, Varner is just kind of like the villain, but to see even him moved by it was it really like showed like the brevity of the situation.
Chris, thoughts there?
Yeah, I actually texted in our group chat while watching this episode that I was pouring tears because this was so emotional. I mean, you really feel how connected their tribe feels to one another because they've they spent so long together and they've worked so well together to this point, even though small personality traits may have annoyed people over time, they still work as a team and that they really feel like a family right now. And to see something happen that quickly and just you could see the pain in Scoopin's eyes and you knew it was real. I mean, this was something so serious, and to them seeing that so up close and personal happening to a tribe member for the first time, it was really scary, especially for everybody there. I was so glad that the medical professionals were able to get there as quickly as they did, because they are in just the middle of the outback. I mean, I didn't know how close anybody would be, but they took care of Scoopin, and it really shows a lot to Scoopin's personal character, even though he was drugged up, that he even asked to see members of his tribe that were standing behind other people. Like he couldn't see Elizabeth or I think Roger. He couldn't see Roger either, and asked them to step out. But it really showed how much they all care about each other, and it made me bawl my eyes out. So
Sorry, my dog has a knack for interrupting touching moments. She had to poke her head in and, lighten the moment a little bit. So Leia, of course, having to pop in. Go on, Leia. All right. So my thoughts on this. And then after, I guess, if you didn't give your final thoughts on Scoopin, do that now, Jada, and then Chris.
Scoopin was a person, I really liked him in this game. I thought he did well with the survival aspects, and I was always pretty upset that he didn't always get along well with his other tribe members. There was always kind of a disconnect there. But I always liked him. I thought he was well cut out for this game. And I was really hoping that he would make it farther than he did. Obviously, he was one of my picks, so it's upsetting to see someone that I liked and somebody on my team go. I'm going to ignore that Kimmy was ever on my team and just say that this is my first loss. And so it sucks. It sucks. And he really went out and just like a sad, horrific way. So it sucks. Hopefully we see him again in the future.
Chris, final thoughts on Scoopin before I get into my thoughts.
yeah, I feel like Scoopin was a leader waiting to happen, and he just didn't know it. He had just a few shortcomings in his game, and he summed it up in his video diary before he got injured, that the survival aspect of the game he had down. I mean, he had started to get into his niche in the wilderness, and he just needed a little more strategic game on top of that with the people, and that was really kind of accurate. It was horrible to see somebody leave Survivor this way. I mean, even when somebody gets voted off, I mean, you can kind of see it coming. This was just out of nowhere, and he didn't really get a chance to do anything about it. Really, I mean, it's a sad way to leave, and I feel bad for Scoopin.
Yeah, it is very hard to see anybody leave the game this way. Because, Scoopin, there's always going to be that thing of, like, what happens if this didn't happen? How far does he make it in the game? Does Kucha win that immunity? Do they pick off Ogakor? Like, we'll never know that outcome. But I genuinely think Scoopin makes it very far. I don't think he wins, but I think he makes it very far. If he were to have, did not have this happen to him. It is so sad, because you want to see someone get voted out because of something that happened to them, like their own shortcomings in any way, shape, or form is why they're gone from the game. You don't want to see someone in actual like danger or like health wise. It's not pleasant, and it did unite the tribe though, and that's potentially dangerous. So yeah, sad, somber moment. But we head over in episode 7 where they're preparing for merge time. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get into that. Kucha, basically, they're like, we're strong. After the whole scooping thing, there's no way, there's no cracks. We are Kucha. Jeff saying, I'm the only one with past votes on our tribe, and we learned from Jeff that Kimmy leaked that information to the other tribes, so they know Jeff has past votes, and he's very worried that going into the merge 5-5, he's going to be targeted. But they are wanting to target Jerry or Colby. Jerry has past votes. Colby does not. Because they're expecting a 5-5 tie. So they're wanting to target Jerry and Colby. Jerry being the strategic threat, Colby being the physical threat. Thoughts on all of that, Jada?
Yeah, going forward, thinking about the merge is kind of where your mind has to be. You have to already start to strategize and plot and plan for this kind of thing. And so I'm glad that they are taking that into account. The fact that they're trying to go after my boy Colby makes me mad. That he's even on the table. He's my boy. But hopefully they see that Jerry is way more annoying, and they don't want to live with her, and so they're just we'll just choose Jerry. We'll get her out.
Chris, thoughts?
Yeah, Jada kind of hit the nail on the head right there. They should be voting Jerry out this week. I don't think they should be targeting Colby at all. I personally think Jerry is a bigger threat than Colby to win this game at this point. And that is only because of her manipulative nature and the fact that she could wiggle right into Kucha and break them apart. And I don't know if Colby has that in him to break up an alliance. I feel he would ride the Kucha alliance to the end and not really cause the damage that Jerry would. But Kucha does not know this yet, and I really want them to find out and vote out Jerry this week.
Yeah, but I don't know. I see it. It's a little easier for us to see what the right move is for Kucha because
Absolutely.
we've seen both sides. They have not really seen the inner dynamics of the tribe. They just see that Jerry seems very, quick-worded. Colby is he's physically intimidating. He seems like a big, muscular guy. He has been kind of their only challenge to help, really, sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand their thought process. They don't know who has votes on Okafor, so they're really just, it's a shot in the dark here for them. And Kimmy really gave them an Achilles heel going into this, with letting her mouth fly off that Jeff had votes. So the girls are being sent all together, and the guys are sent to the Kucha camp, and the girls from Kucha are sent to the Okafor camp. At the Kucha camp, they're gonna eat their last chicken and kind of live a higher life at their camp, while at the Okafor side, they're eating a tortilla. And the girls they're talking a lot about Scoopin's evacuation, because Okafor received news that a member had been evacuated, but they had no idea who or how serious it was. I think at one point they were speculating Roger could have had a stroke, or they didn't know what happened to anybody. So the girls were discussing that, and the guys are kind of just having fun and laughing, while Varner, he's I'm concerned with Colby, but I'm going to try to take this opportunity and flip Keith. So Varner's really trying to warm up to Keith and trying to flip that vote. Thoughts on all of this so far, Jake?
Yeah, this was an amusing way. Obviously, they're going to be combined soon, so I thought that the fact that they're doing it differently this season than they did last is fun, and the way they did it was fun as well. Everybody being able to catch up and hear about what really happened about Michael, being able to process that and understand what happened is a good step because, like we all know, all they heard was somebody was hurt and had to be evacuated, and they're you know you obviously have to be worried about that. Varner trying to come on to Keith and be like trying to flip him was amusing. Obviously, Colby is more of a threat than Keith, so I understand they want to get Keith out, but I don't think they understand that Keith and Colby are like, I don't know, I would say that they're pretty tight. So,
Chris, thoughts on that?
Yeah, Jada again, like always, hitting it right on the head. I think it was a really funny way to kind of prep everybody for the merge with both tribes expecting different members than what they got. Uh, Kucha, the Kucha guys that stayed behind were expecting the Ogakor women, and the Ogakor women were expecting the Kucha guys. I thought that was just kind of funny that both teams didn't know what they were getting, and when it ended up being boys really in their own tribe and the women in their own tribe, I thought that was really kind of the divide that needed to happen in the show, and I was ready to see it because I feel like the men in the show would have worked together a lot better than the women would, and I kind of wanted to see Colby get an edge in this competition because I am slightly biased to him and Nick as well. I mean, Nick's my remaining member, but it was really kind of nice to see Varner talking strategy, even though he left Colby out. I wish he would have just went after both guys and tried to get them on his team because he probably could have done it, and then Kucha probably would have just steamrolled everybody.
Yeah, my thoughts on it. I mean, I like this whole like, you know, sending the guys together, the girls together, or even just sending a few from each and mixing it up a little bit instead of the one ambassador thing they did for Borneo. That was kind of boring, honestly. I like that dynamic. Of course, we had to talk about scooping again because it was such a big thing last episode. And I had to talk about it again. As far as Varner trying to flip Keith, yeah, he probably should have talked to Colby, but also maybe he should have just waited till they all were there, because then he could have probably seen Colby and Tina being kind of a force. Because Keith is not going to do anything unless Colby's on board or Tina even. So he's got to talk to the right people to sway. But he doesn't know those dynamics. But he didn't wait until he could see the whole dynamics to try to make this flip. I would have waited until we had all the pieces on the game board before I tried to make a move. So moving forward with this a little bit, Jerry avoids Keith talk on the girl side because she knows Keith has votes in the past and she has votes in the past. And so she doesn't want to draw any heat toward Keith because she doesn't want them to know about the votes. So she's like, if I just don't talk about him, then I'm not tempted to say anything, and they won't think that I have voted for him in the past, which I have. The girls are bonding a bit. There is a little bit of bonding on their side. Then they're all going to move to one camp, and they get a big merge feast. And Ogakor is like, finally, we get food, actual food. This is amazing. And Tina, while she is happy to eat her Doritos and whatnot, she is like, I am taking this opportunity to do much more listening to the conversation than I am talking. Because listening to these people talk is the only way I'm going to understand where they stand, who they bond with, who they work with, and where I need to be when it comes to their relationships. Thoughts on all that, Chris? We'll start with you this time.
Yeah, we're seeing some serious game out of Tina right here. She's sitting back and listening, and we've learned from the last season of Survivor with my guy Rich that really kind of works well in the end if you know what's going on and you're paying attention to other people and playing your game off of how everyone else works and not just how you want to play.
Jada.
Yeah, it's really cool. Tina plays such a quiet game that sometimes you don't even realize she's playing, which I think helps make her sitting back and listening seem even more natural and like it's not like it's the strategy that it is. Um, and like Chris said, call back to Rich, where sometimes it pays off to know what's going on, to know where people's heads are at. And Tina is wise, and I think, before I thought she was going to make it pretty far, but it's this quiet, sneaky game that she's playing that I think is really going to take her far.
Yeah, and like I really think that Tina's taking the Rich strategy where last season when they were trying to call, it was during a jury questioning when they were like, Rich, you said that you in your speech that you listened to us, but you didn't know a thing about us. He's like, I didn't mean getting to know you on a personal level. We don't know each other. I mean, I knew who you were talking to, when you were talking to that person, the relationships you were forming, or where your strategy was in the game, and how my strategy would pertain to that to get me farther.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Tina's doing. She's essentially doing that game. But Rich has such a personality that he cannot be quiet as much. Whereas Tina is naturally quiet. She's naturally an observer. She is the mother type. No one is seeing her threat level at all. And the only one that really is Keith, but Keith decided to work with her. So, this gameplay is very impressive and interesting to watch. It's not as exciting or flamboyant as some other strategies, but it's effective so far. Then, back to all this. Varner is like, well, it was all buddy-buddy, but then I see them all run. They're pointing fingers and talking about numbers and who's on who. And I know that the game is on. And if you want the game to be on, then by all means, let it be on.
It's on.
Yeah. It always goes to BB2. It's on. I love it. Colby, on the other hand, he's like, I just want to lay low. The target, I am a target, just being myself. So I need to just try to just lower that as much as possible, let other people poke their heads out, and hopefully I won't get mine cut off here. They get new shelter built, and also the new tribe name, they're the Barramundi tribe.
Ooh.
And then Keith saying, very fittingly, the honeymoon stage is almost over, and the war is about to begin. Kusha versus Ogakor. Place your bets. We get to our first immunity challenge, but I want to get your thoughts on Varner and Colby and Keith's comments, and just the merge in general, Jada.
I like the new name Barramundi. It's a good choice. It's nice to finally see the merge happening. Obviously, this is kind of like the big part of the game that we really look forward to. This is where the pace changes. The tribe, I think it's pretty obvious that of the original two tribes that Kucha will do better here than Ogakor, and that Kucha will, I think, be able to vote them out. However, I think they're going to vote out the people that I don't want around anyway. So it's fine. Because I love my girl Tina, and she, like we discussed, she's playing such a quiet, sneaky game that people don't see her threat level. So I don't think they're going to be too worried about her. And I think the only person I'm really worried for is Colby. But I think once they see that, I don't know, that he's I just like who he is and his dynamic within the group, that they'll shift their focus onto the people that we really don't want around.
Chris, thoughts on those statements?
Yeah, Jada, absolutely right. Again, this is the point in the show right before the merge, everyone is just starting to get comfortable in their tribe and really starting to have strategy laid out and have a game in place. And then all of a sudden, it's like the first week of Survivor almost, and you're all thrown back together, and you have to completely reevaluate your game, and you have to observe another tribe while still trying to play your game and listen to other people play theirs and figure out what you have to do to better yourself. And if you're working with an alliance, better your alliance in this game. And it's really just, I feel the merge is a wild card week where you don't really know who's gonna go, but you we see later that Jeff kind of sums it up really well. It's just the tribes voting against the tribes, and this happened last time in Survivor, and it's happening again.
Except last season, they were not as competent as these people. I mean, you may agree with me or may not agree with me. I think Survivor Australia's cast are much more competitive, and so this whole like Kucha Okafor thing is much more evident than Pagong versus Tagi, because Pagong was unwilling to vote with each other. But my thoughts on the first vote of the merge is always such an important and exciting vote for the viewer, because this is going to start shaping the course of the second half of the game. The Survivor is a two-part game. There is the tribe part of the game, and then there's the merge portion of the game. And which direction this is going to go is very much reliant on who gets this, which tribe's going to get this first vote, whoever goes their way. And this is going to set a trend, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So this is very important. Big stakes for this immunity challenge going into it. And going into the immunity challenge, Colby says, I am going to try to draw heat on myself because I don't have any votes cast against me. Keith does. So if I can get them to vote for me, we're good. So that's his mindset going into this challenge. So basically, there's all these like poles in the water, and they're standing on top of them. And the last one standing wins. Nick falls very early. Nick's like, yep. It was like an hour in, maybe. Nick's like, yep, not doing this. This is no bueno for me. Then Jeff comes, Colby jumps too. He does a little flip into the water. So it's even like he was trying to come off as cocky, like, I could have stayed up here forever, but instead I'm not gonna. Then Jeff says, hey guys, who wants some peanut butter? Anybody gonna get off these poles for some peanut butter? Roger's like, yeah, man. Not gonna be able to be up here much longer. So Roger jumps off, and Varner's like, peanut butter? And he kind of looks around. He's like, everybody else up here pretty solid? I'm like, yeah. All right. So Varner jumps off, gets himself a huge scoop of peanut butter. And it's the girls and Keith that are left in this challenge. Then shortly after, Amber and Jerry fall off, leaving Elizabeth, Alicia, Tina, and Keith solid. This has gone for a long time. And Elizabeth's like, if I can get a boat ride back in, I'll get off. I'm very cold up here. I don't want to be up here anymore. So she gets a boat, and then Alicia's like, yeah, me too. I'm done. And it's Tina and Keith standing up there, and Keith turns to Tina. He says, hey, I need this. And she's like, what? He's like, I need this. I'm in huge danger. Can you please give this to me? And Tina's like, all right, I'm in the boat too. So Tina gets off. Keith wins first individual immunity after 10 and a half hours of standing on these poles. Thoughts on all of that? Jada, we'll start with you.
It definitely didn't pan out the way I thought it was going to. But all I could think about is like how committed that a lot of these people are. Like, it ended at 10 hours and 17 minutes with Alicia and Tina leaving. And if we're to go on that long, like if we just like jump back and compare it to BB2, with the very first challenge was like, who will win this new car? Be in it the longest. And they almost all of them immediately got out. Like it did not go on for long at all for most of them. But most of the people here were actually trying. And like to see the difference between that was, it's just, you can really see that these people are here to win. And I think Colby's strategy was pretty smart of him. I'm not happy with it because I don't want a target on his back, but it was pretty smart of him to, in order to keep Ogakor intact over at Barramundi. And then in the end, Keith telling Tina, like, he's like, hey, no, I need this. And Tina listening. It just shows like how big of a person she really is. Because if you imagine, like, if you stood on a pole for 10 hours and then some guy was just like, no, but I need this, and you step down, like...
Chris, your thoughts?
Yeah, just to further Jada's point, let's just think about the last three people on these polls. It's Alicia, Tina, and Keith. The only person on any of these polls that even has a vote is Keith. That is how determined Alicia and Tina are, just to win immunity so no one else can have it. Alicia, I personally think she is up on these polls to drive Ogakor to reveal their weak link in who decides to stay on the polls the longest. And we see Tina still on the poll. Don't really know why. I mean, she did not have to win this immunity, but she is there to compete. And even though she is one of the most quiet people on the island, you kind of just see how willing she is to win this game. She has to want this that badly to have 0 votes and still stand on a poll for 10 hours. And it shows a lot to her character, like Jada said, that Keith turning to her and telling Tina he needed that, because he really did. He had so many votes because of him and Jerry having fights. And Tina realizing this and stepping down for her teammate. And Keith even tells Probst, yeah, Tina gave me this. And she really did. Tina probably would have stayed up there for a lot longer if she was not a team player. And Keith probably would have too.
Yeah, I really think Tina stayed up there because Alicia was still up there. I think Tina was going to stay up there as long as there was a Kucha member up there. But, bravo to all of these people for hanging on this long. Like, the shortest time was like an hour and a half. So, this wasn't fast. It wasn't like Will with the keys at the final HOH in BB2. Like, it was fast. So bravo to that. I think, we'll talk about it later. One person in particular made a very, very big mistake in this competition. We'll get to that later. And I don't remember. It's been a minute since I watched this episode because we were supposed to do this like last week. I have the note, Elizabeth, keep your mouth shut. Like, she says that. Like, my mom always says, Elizabeth, keep your mouth shut. Like, what did she say? Do you remember? Because I remember she said something, and then, like, in her special, she's like, my mother always used to say, Elizabeth, keep your, like, she's typical cute Elizabeth. She's like, Elizabeth, keep your mouth shut. And here I go, not listen to, I don't know. I just remember, I wrote it down. I wish I'd remembered. Anyway, at the tribal council, it stated, whoever goes tonight, the last non-juror. So after this vote, jury starts. just like it was for Borneo. Votes come out 5-5. Jeff and Colby receiving the votes. Then there's the classic revote. Jeff's like, I'm going to give you guys plead your case. Both men pretty much say, we know the lines are drawn in the sand. Then the vote comes out 4-4. Jeff and Colby. Colby, how many votes have you received in the past? None. Jeff, how many votes have you received in the past? 2.
One that he knew of.
Yeah, one that he knew of. He did not know about.
One that I knew of.
Because he knew Deb, but there was Kimmy too. So Jeff eliminated so this is the second tiebreaker we've had to have in Survivor Australia. Jeff saying that Kimmy couldn't have kept her fat fucking mouth shut. I wouldn't be in this situation. Thoughts on another tie vote, and then final thoughts on Varner. We'll start with you, Jada.
The fact that we went from no tie votes to 2 tie votes in the same season is insane. Because we didn't even know what the process was until this season, and now this is already the second time it's happened, and we're just now at the merge. I'm not as surprised by it because like they said, or like the guy said when they were given their chance to speak, we know the lines are drawn. And obviously I'm much happier that Jeff went home as opposed to Colby, my favorite Texan, versus Jeff, who's just kind of a dick. So yeah, I'm pretty okay with how things ended up this episode.
But yeah, my final thoughts on Varner and his game.
Oh, right, yeah. Playing the villain is not a bad strategy, and it can work out for you. And I think it could have. I don't think Jeff played a bad game. He played a decent game, as well as anybody else, But, in the end, it's just he had more votes, so not playing as good a game as Colby.
All right, Chris, thoughts on that tie vote, and then the final thoughts on Varner.
Yeah, it's as simple as Kucha didn't know which member to vote for. It's as simple as that. Keith, obviously, he stayed up on the poll for a reason. He knew he had so many votes between his and Jerry's fighting, and really, if Kucha would have known to go after Jerry instead of Colby,
Mm-hmm.
this show is a completely different story.
Mm-hmm.
But even with everything that Okafor slightly hinted at during their time with Kucha so far, I mean, they have given nothing away. They've kept their mouth shut. They're really good at covering their ass. And that is the only reason they got through this elimination 1-up. And if, like Varner said, if Kimmy would have kept her fucking mouth shut, Varner might still be in this thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know. The game turns out how it turns out. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm sad to see Varner go. I mean, he was the villain, but everybody kind of likes villains now. He was fun to see in the show, even though he was kind of an asshole. He probably would have made it a lot farther if they would have known who to vote for, but they didn't, and he's gone.
Yeah, like Jada said, this is very crazy that we're seeing. Went from it took us to the final 4 last season to get a tie vote. And this one we saw it in the 4th vote, and then now right at the merge. So these people, it's not as clear cut. And Varner played a great game, but he had one fatal flaw in that he knew going into this immunity challenge that he had past votes, and not only that, he knew that they knew that he had past votes. So if I'm Varner, I'm staying up on this pole no matter who the fuck's up here. And he jumps off for peanut butter. And that, he's gone now. I hope that was really good peanut butter because you lost $1 million. Because up to this point, I think Varner has played a perfect game for someone in his category of being the villain. but he was able to lay low at the same time, and just completely fucked that up very quickly. So, I'm sad to see him go, but it is completely his fault that he is in the position that he is in. Minus Kimmy did spill the beans. That does suck. But he knew it. It's not like he was surprised that she did it. But now it's like this thing of now all these people have to think about past votes matter.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tie vote. That's it. So now Colby has 9 votes cast against him. So if he's tied with anybody in the future, he's a goner. And that's a big thing to think about.
Well, do they count his tie 5 plus his tie 4?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yikes.
Even if it was just a 5, it's still more than anybody else.
Well, sure, but
so with that, we end the coverage of the episode, but we are going to our power rankings, which are now much smaller than they were originally. Chris, start us off with Amber. You had her at a 6 last time. Where are we going?
Yeah. Amber doesn't do a whole lot on the show. She just kind of rides her alliances as far as they'll let her go, and she's doing it again. So I'm gonna give the girl a 6 because her alliance is up right now. So
Jada?
I'm going to agree with Chris mostly, except I'm going to drop her down to a 5. Just because
You had her at a 5 last time.
Oh, never mind. I'm going to agree with Chris completely, except I'm going to
keep her at a 5.
Keep her at a 5. But it's really just because now her alliance is with Jerry.
Yeah, okay. I had Amber at a 5 last time, and I'm also going to keep her at a 5. Because she, if they stay Ogakor strong, she's in that tribe. But once they decide to turn on each other, it's not looking so good for Amber.
Well, there's a reason we've heard Kucha strong a lot more than we've heard Ogakor strong this season.
I don't think they've ever said Ogakor strong.
Right.
So, yeah. So, pretty solid rating all around there for Amber. She's played over half a season of Survivor, and I still don't have very much to say about her, other than she works with Jerry. Chris, tell us about Jerry, who you gave a 2 last time.
I hate this. I hate Jerry personally, but Jerry really saved her ass this week. She got lucky. Sadly, with Scoopin being medically evacuated, because if not, Jerry would have went home. I can guarantee that to every certainty and every fiber of my being that Jerry was going home. Ogakor was never going to win that competition, and they were all going to vote for Jerry except for Amber and Jerry. But she saves her ass, and she covers up her past with Keith very well in the time that she has been with other tribe members of Kucha. And that is the whole reason Jerry is in this show right now. It is because she can cover her ass. And because of that, I'm going to bump her up to a 4.
All right, a 4 for Jerry. Jada, you had Jerry at a 6 last time. I believe you were the highest on Jerry there. Where are you going from here?
I'm going to drop Jerry down. For some reason in my head, I thought I had her at a 3. So I was just going to keep her there, but since I had her at a 6, I will only drop her down to a 4 like Chris. And there's a couple reasons is because, like Chris said, she is covering her ass, and she's good at that. And she would be gone if not for Scoopin's accident. But also, you have to take into account the reason she would be gone is because she was not playing a good game, and she got that loss for Ogakor because she doesn't take shit seriously. So, yeah, I'm going to have her at a 4 as well. Okay.
I had her at a 4 last time. I'm going to put her at a 5 because I think her and Amber are on the same level because, while I think Jerry is a target, if they could stay Ogakor for a little bit, that's also a thing, but there's a trend of Jerry's alliance members going before Jerry right now. So Amber could take the bullet just as easily as Jerry could. So I'm gonna give her a 5. She's in the okay rating right now because she's not in immediate danger, I don't think. Chris, tell us about Tina. Tina, you gave a 7. We all gave her a 7 last time. Chris,
Yeah. Tina has done nothing but improve my emotion about her. I am fired up to see Tina in the show, and all she does is sit in the background and watch. Tina is playing such a good game right now, and like I mentioned before, it's giving me flashbacks to Rich, and I got a funny feeling. But let's see how Tina's game goes. I'm gonna keep her at a 7 because I think Tina is playing amazingly right now.
Okay, Jada, where are you going from here?
Yeah, for all those reasons, I'm gonna go ahead and boost Tina up to a 9. I think she's doing phenomenal. I think she's playing the best game out of everybody right now, and she's still seen as such a low threat, despite the fact that she's playing the best. So yeah, I'm gonna give her a 9.
I'm gonna boost her up to an 8 for all the reasons you guys said. She is like a Rich, but a very quiet Rich, but I think is even more dangerous than a Rich.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, gotta give Tina an 8. She's playing one of, if not the best game right now. So, with that, tell us about Keith, Chris. You had him at a 6 last time. Yeah, you had him at 6 last time.
Yeah, I mean, Keith kind of he had the grit and determination this week. He really turned on his competitive nature. Let's not forget, Keith stuck it out there on that pole for 10 hours and I believe it was 40 some minutes.
17.
And
I think James said. 10
oh,
hours, 17.
I was off a lot of it, but he turns to his teammate and asks to be given this challenge. And just because of the relationship that he's built with Tina, was able to accomplish it. I feel like even if Keith and Tina would have remained on the poles, Keith probably would have had a shot at this. But I mean, Tina looked very determined, and Keith got given life this week. And I'm gonna hope he doesn't ruin it, but let's give him a 6.
Okay, staying at 6. Jada, you also had Keith at a 6 last time. What are you doing from there?
Yeah, I'm also going to keep him the same, for the same reasons that Chris said.
Yeah, I had him at 5 last time. I'm going to bump him up to a 6 because even if the Ogre Corps people turn on each other, Keith is not first or second on that list.
Mm-hmm.
So, gonna boost him up to a 6. Then it brings us to Colby. Chris, tell us about Colby.
Yeah, I've loved every second of Colby in this show until the merge. Colby, his ideas in his head are about his team, and he's not necessarily thinking about himself right now. In the fact that he took the ultimate target this week. Colby was saying that he went in to this competition trying to draw as much as attention as he possibly could, and you don't want that ever in any game like Survivor or Big Brother. Attention is not something that tends to suit people well in the show. Most people get voted out or get in a lot of danger getting attention, but Colby is still a physical threat in this game, and he still has the brains, but his move this week could have jeopardized his life later in the game, coming down to any ties. So, Colby, I'm going to give you a 6, and let's go get this.
All right, from an 8 to a 6. JD also had Colby at an 8. What are you doing from here?
I'm also going to drop him down to 7, but and I agree with most of what Chris said. It's that so my different perspective on it though is that Colby from the beginning, even though I thought this idea was stupid, he was still able to manipulate the people to do what he wanted, which is why I'm not dropping him down as low as Chris did, because even though it was kind of a dumb move and it jeopardized his game and it jeopardized his game in the future, it's still exactly what he wanted, and he was able to manipulate everybody else so that they did what he wanted, which I think just shows how good of a player he really is.
Yeah, I had him at 8. I'm gonna drop him down to a 7 because even before he tried to draw heat on himself, they were targeting him. So Colby is a threat already here. But I also think that with his wanting to draw heat by throwing the challenge, also made him look a little better because if he'd have beasted out and won this challenge, he'd be even more of a threat next time. So I think he balanced himself out. He had good intentions with what he was doing, but I don't think it's going to ultimately hurt him. So I'm going to keep him at a 7. Things are looking okay from this point. Oh, drop my pen. Things are looking okay from this point. Next, that brings us to Alicia. So we're going to be now talking about the Kucha tribe that went from 6 to 4. Alicia, Chris, you had her at a 6 last time. Where are we going from here?
Yeah, I'm just seeing Alicia again in the same way. Not a whole lot of her game has changed, but she might be in for a giant turnaround, given that her partner in crime has now been booted off of the show. But I still think Alicia is very determined. She's a very physical threat. I just hope that the brain wasn't all in Varner and Alicia can still turn this thing around and cause some damage, if not take this thing to the end. But Alicia, because she's such a physical threat and she might not necessarily be the first target because she is a lot, I think, nicer in the eyes of the Oka Corps members. And I feel like they might want to use her in this game. So I'm going to keep, I think I had her at a 6, so I'm going to keep her at a 6. Correct?
Okay. Keeping at a 6 for Alicia. Jada, you had Alicia at a 5 last time. Where are you going from here?
I'm gonna agree with Chris and boost her up to a 6. She did really well in the last challenge. She stood up there for like 10 plus hours. You can see that she's a real physical competitor, and I don't think anybody is targeting her yet, which is obviously good for her game. I couldn't remember what I had her as, so I was either going to keep her the same or give her a point, just because her game is mostly the same, but she's still a strong competitor. The difference is going forward, I'm a little worried, which is why I wouldn't give her more than what I did, is that her game is still the same, but the game has changed at this point.
Yeah. I had Alicia at a 5. I'm going to drop her down to a 4 because she's not in a numbers thing right now. I think she's of the Kucha people. She looks okay, but there's 5 and 4 now, and that is not something to be looked over. She is a physical intimidation factor. Just like they look at Colby, maybe Oka Corps is going to look at her that way. She doesn't have Varner anymore. That's a big hit. Which there's still a duo in Kucha, which I'll talk about in a minute, that I think is going to benefit or maybe not benefit from still being together. But Alicia, 4. I think she's doing better than some of them, but the tide has not turned in her favor. Chris, let's talk about your boy Nick. You had him at a 5 last time. Where are you going?
Yeah, Nick, I'm pretty sure as of this point has no votes against him. Nobody really talks about Nick on the show, and I think we finally see Nick do something productive for his tribe right before his tribe is no longer a tribe. And Nick, I don't really know what his game is. You can't tell from anything he puts out. He did do very well in the picnic basket comp, but other than that, there's not too many good words about Nick. But I don't believe he is the first to go in this elimination streak that I see coming. But so I'm gonna give Nick a 3 because he might not be the first person voted out, but he could be close if he doesn't do something.
Right, Jada, you had Nick at a 3 last time. Where are you going from here?
I'm gonna throw Nick a bone. I'm gonna give him +1, take him up to a 4. For a lot of, I agree with a lot of what Chris said, but I think it was nice to see Nick finally step out and see him do well. And I think the fact that he doesn't have a target on his back right now is going to get him through at least the next 2 votes, because he maintained his status under the radar for so long before he stepped out. And he didn't step out in a bad way. So I think he could probably maintain that.
I had him at a 2 last time.
Yikes.
And I'm gonna give the dog a bone here. I'm gonna put him up at the 3 with my ranking. So I'm also gonna give him a +1 because what he did was positive. He did something good, which is rare for Nick, but it wasn't much. It was a reward. It was a reward challenge, and he has not since done that, nor has he used it to improve his relationships with literally anybody. He doesn't even have relationships within Kucha, which is his tribe, yet alone with Ogakor. So things are not looking too great for Nick, but they might just take him because he's so useless, because he's the first out in the endurance comp, which I think he is one of the youngest people there. So kind of like. So tell me about Roger then, Chris. You had him at a 6 last time. Where are you going from here?
Yeah, Roger is the really nice farmer guy, and that's about all the good things I could say right now, because Roger is such a nice guy, but we have not seen him talk strategy a whole lot in this game, even though the little bit that we have seen has been very good. I have not seen where Roger is at since Merge. I don't know his game. I don't really see Ogakor bringing him into their group because of his sub-alliance with Elizabeth. But I don't think Roger is going to go home that quick, so I'm going to give him a 4.
All right, 4 for Roger. Jada, you had Roger at 5. Where are you going from here?
I'm going to keep Roger at a 5. We didn't see much from Roger the past 2 episodes, and I'm not really worried about that. I know that now that we have the merge, he might not make it through very far, because I don't think it's going to be harder for Elizabeth to protect him from all these new people. However, I don't think that anybody's even thinking about getting him out yet, because he is such a nice, quiet person who doesn't really. And it's kind of like the same with Nick. They're quiet. They're not on the radar. And so I think there are other people that everybody else is worried about right now getting out, who are bigger threats than they are worried about Roger. So I'm going to give him a 5.
I had Roger at a 6 last time. I'm going to drop down to a 5 because I think of the Kucha, he's the least likely to be targeted, because while he was targeted for his age and not being great at challenges on a tribe, off a tribe, he seems like a pretty guy. He's nice, and you might be able to beat him easily. So, taking him farther right now seems like a pretty good idea. And I think even if they decide to break up Elizabeth and Roger, I think Elizabeth is the more likely person they would take the shot at. So gonna keep him at a 5, or break him down to a 5. Which brings us to our last person, and then we'll end the episode. Elizabeth. Chris, you had her at a 5 last time. Where are you going from here?
Yeah, I'm glad Mac just hinted at the Elizabeth fact. I do not have a good feeling about Elizabeth going into our next episode. I think her history of taking the target away from Roger and kind of holding it up over herself, I think might catch up to her, and I feel like it might ruin her game because I feel like next week we might just get Ogakor versus Kucha, and I think she's gonna worry more about protecting Roger than herself. So I'm gonna give Elizabeth a 2, and she could very, very well be the next person voted out of Survivor.
All right, Jada, you had Elizabeth at a 5 last time. Where are you going from here?
I disagree with Chris. I don't think that she's going to be a target next week. And while I think protecting Roger is going to be detrimental to her game, ultimately, I don't think it's going to be detrimental for a while because the same with Roger, the same with Nick, there's just not a target on her back. Obviously, she's a little bit more of a player than either of those two, but not by a lot. And so I'm going to keep her at the same just because I don't think that there's going to be much change. And even with this change in dynamic, just because I don't see her as a threat and I don't think the others will see her as a threat, I think she'll also be carried a little bit. Because at the merge, that's what you're worried about is threats.
Yeah, so wait, where did you bring her to?
Kept her at the same.
Okay. I had Elizabeth at a 7 last time. I'm a big Elizabeth Flarsky fan. But I have to bring her down to a 4 because I think Roger's got the best chance on Kucha, so that I left him at a 5, or put him to a 5. I do think Elizabeth, if it came down to Roger or her, would say take a shot at me over Roger.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're really close, and I think she would rather lay down for him. And also at this immunity challenge, she was up there for a long time. She did take the boat offer, but she then was like, if I'm coming down, I'm getting a boat. I'm not jumping in the water. Like she's kind of smart, and she's, I think that if she didn't have Roger, she'd be even more dangerous. But she does have that. She's more human than machine, and because of that, she has an Achilles heel in this game. So that is our Star Australia talk for this episode. Tune in next time. We'll be talking about episode 8. So we will be talking about the first juror and the dynamics moving forward. So thank you guys for watching. I gotta see the button.